Good evening. Welcome to Aging Issues Radio, a product of Cut. No, we don't cut. We can do this anyway. We're just going to start over. No, we'll edit it out. Welcome to Aging Issues Radio, a product of Aging Issues Management. The star of the show, once again, please welcome the president of Aging Issues Management, Joe Soroselli. Joseph, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Bob. Yes, and this is Aging Issues Management, both a product, Aging Issues Radio, both a product of Aging Issues Management and Radio Westchester. This is very important because this is collaborative, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Because you have to understand, when issues arise within a family or within, a financial situation, it isn't a single individual that has to address the issues. It's a team. It's a collaboration between multiple people. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is something I had started about 2 years ago, but I will tell you, fell to the wayside as we were doing other things. And what it really was a network of advisors. Well, now I've joined forces with a national organization called the Master Networks. Now, the difference between what you usually do at a network meeting and what I've been able to I was given permission by Master Networks to do, is to make it a little bit more of a specialized group to address the issues as we age. I've worked with the Westchester Business, the Westchester Business Council. I've worked with local chambers to try to unify the resources that are out there to help people address those problems that come up as they age. Now, it can be anything from the questions of Medicare, right? It could be Medicaid, long-term care. There are specialists in all fields. Now, Aging Issues Management tries to get you to put your hands around that entire process as we age. We try to get you to recognize that there are stages in the aging process. From, as I often have said, the first stage, you first get your job, everything else. You have to address potentially your first rental, bills, so forth. It's financial planning 101. It's something that hasn't been taught in high schools. It hasn't been, necessarily even taught in colleges. They teach you theory. They don't teach you the practice. And this is an issue that our younger generation has to face. They just don't understand credit. They don't understand a lot of the problems that can arise if you don't have the proper education and the proper application of that education. So what we try to do at Aging Issues Management is get people to think about that, because student loans. A lot of our children come out of school with big student loans. That can affect them for long periods of time, and there are some solutions. The next stage of life, which we have to address, right, is going to be the family stage. A lot of people settle in, and all of a sudden now they may have a family, but they may have a significant other, and they start to look at homes. They start to look at the next stages. And if you didn't start properly in the first stage, the second stage of trying to get a mortgage becomes very difficult. Because if you have a lot of outstanding credit, all of a sudden now you may not qualify for a note if you've been late on a payment or anything of that nature. And the student loans, while they may, not seem significant, are significant when you're applying for certain mortgages or even just sometimes the rent, because it is a monthly obligation that has to be paid. So we go through these stages of life, and we have to turn around and look at what are the issues we face in each stage. Sometimes you have parents that worry about, the stages, the early issues that their children are going to face. And that starts to go into that next stage of life that I often talk about, where you start to make those pre-retirement decisions. Now, the pre-retirement decisions are, can I retire? Have I saved enough? That becomes a very big issue. I've participated in recent surveys that show that the majority, unfortunately, the majority of individuals have not saved enough for what they think their expected retirement income is going to be. Unfortunately, right now, the majority of retirees are living on Social Security. At least in this area where we are talking from, Westchester County, that's a very, very, very difficult thing to do. Right? I will be attending a meeting next week that flows into this, and it talks about the housing crisis and the cost of housing in Westchester County, both if you own or if you simply want to rent. Our county, supervisor will be speaking also, talking about, as he quotes, the housing crisis that we are facing. And then we go into the next stage of retirement, right? Being the go-go years. We've retired, we're starting to enjoy, and I can go through the final stages. But what I really want you to understand, and what I want to talk about today, and potentially get some input from my co-host, Bob, is how do you create a network of advisors that will give you the answers that you need? Basically, a team. If you have to go out and create the team, sometimes there's a lot of conflicting information. I'll never, ever argue with a second opinion, but if everybody is working in the same direction, if the 49ers didn't have a tremendous offensive line and a great running back, they wouldn't be going to the Super Bowl.
No, they would not.
Right? So it's a team. Whenever you have a single superstar, right, or a person that has to dominate the projections, it seems like those organizations slow down or unfortunately don't make it to the finish line.
Joseph, what a lot of people are going to wonder, and I as their proxy wonder, when do I start asking these questions? When do I start building the network? Realistically, as you've mentioned, some young folks don't even want to think about it. Realistically, when should I start?
Well, the first thing that no matter where you are, and yes, I am, I was a football person, but I also played other sports, and it seems you always have a captain or a quarterback that helps organize the team and keep everybody moving in the same direction. So whatever stage in life you are at, hopefully you have a quarterback or a captain, because that individual will be able to grab other individuals to help you. Now let's even think, when we go back to the first level, the very first level, which I talked about, the millennial, the student that is, the individual that has student loans. One of the things that you have to investigate possibly is refinancing those student loans. It can be, if nothing else, not going to necessarily consolidate, but get them all and understand what you are paying and what you may be able to reduce that payment to.
That's one of the first things that certainly a young person can do. But based on your management of individuals' finances in these stages of life, what is the ultimate goal? Or what is the set of goals for them?
Well, when you look at the set of goals, right, that an individual needs to turn around and put together, the first and foremost item is to have that end goal. Where do I want to be? So you need to maybe go out to the that last goal. I want to be I'm going to use the classic. I want to be able to retire with a comfortable lifestyle. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to do everything else. This is historically the goal that people tell me about.
Okay, but there are also, and you talk frequently on these programs about the different stages.
Well, now we come backwards. Goal settings 101, right? You have your broad, dynamic goal that you want to turn around and accomplish. And then what do you have to do? You have to break that down into smaller goals. If a person, has difficulty setting goals, sometimes they're procrastinators. They don't want to address the issue. It's like we run from sometimes things that are difficult, and we always tend towards the easier way out. That's natural. When you think about businessmen or people that have obtained what they want to do, right? They usually have set it down to smaller goals, and sometimes they're not always the things that you want to do. I'll sometimes even go as simple as many individuals who go into civil service or work for the state, besides wanting to help, or be a fireman or be a policeman, they also understand that if they do this for a certain number of years, the state is going to give them a pension.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So
they're in pursuit of security more than they are riches in those cases.
in many cases, yes. I'm also going to say there's a lot of individuals that join the police force because they want to do the right thing by the community.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they understand that, as you just said, they may not work for, as the proverbial thing is, the Wall Street salary, right, or a high income initially, but they will be working towards a goal of a pension, right? Now, that pension, depending upon how or what they do progress through the ranks, if they do choose to progress through the ranks. I recently was talking to somebody that, was a fireman and never wanted to be anything other than a fireman. He didn't want to become a lieutenant. He didn't want to become a captain. He didn't want to do anything on the management side. He was very happy with what he was doing. So his goal really was to get through the 20 years and have security for the rest of his life from a state a state pension. So there was a goal there that he was focusing on, and he was willing to sacrifice potentially for 20 years to get there. On the opposite side, many individuals sit back and say, well, if I save X, if I save 10% of my salary, right, or my earnings for the rest of my life, I should retire comfortably. But many individuals, find other, needs for that, deferral of income. So they don't have the discipline, or they don't want to take the sacrifices to save that money for that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Other individuals, will do different things. Nobody, that I am aware of always does everything in the exact direction.
Of course, and Joseph, isn't it also true that sometimes people will make these savings, put this money aside, do it right, and have a life issue that takes it away?
That's an issue that arises. And when issues arise, the first and foremost thing is don't quickly react. Public Service Announcement 101. There's always, and everybody hears about the grandma scams.
Mm-hmm.
That grandma receives a phone call from, hello, this is John Doe. I'm with the ABC Police Department in Arkansas, and your grandson, ABC, your grandson John, has unfortunately, been arrested. And in order for him to, get out, I need you to post bail immediately for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That happened in my own family. Not to me, but it happened to an extended family member.
Didn't know. Grandma or grandpa have, if you notice, there's an immediacy to the situation.
Yes.
And whenever there's an immediacy, even in a financial decision, a lot of times it may be the wrong decision. And you can't, you can change, how can I say this? You can learn from it. Hopefully you can recover from it. But why don't you just slow down and look at the alternatives? Think it through. Whatever it may be. Whether it be, do I really need to, go back to school and go back to school and get my master's and finance it? Basically pay for it through financing. Well, do I know what I really want to do for the rest of my life? If you're in a position that you need to advance, in order to advance, you need the additional education, then it may be required, And frequently in those circumstances, it is something that the company will pay for.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, right, to simply say, well, I want to become a movie producer.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to get a master's degree in movie production or whatever the associate, degree may be.
Go ahead.
Do you really have a line into it? Now, if that is your ultimate goal, and I'm never going to say don't do it, but you have to be prepared. You have to have set short-term goals. Well, if I'm not going to have an income for a period of time, I'm going to need to turn around and have savings. Do you have the savings? How are you going to provide? Maybe the alternate plan is go back home and live with mom. I can't tell you. But people set new goals at all stages of their lives. And unfortunately, as Bob was referencing, there are issues that may come up that make you change your goals. Now, I've bounced around right now with the input from Bob, but what I want you to truly understand from this show tonight, and we're probably going to break this piece out right here and look at it and say, my objective tonight is to get you to recognize a person that you first trust. Therefore, you have a feeling that they're going to do things in your best interest, and let them be your quarterback.
But shouldn't that be a financial services professional? And I'm not doing that to pitch you, but shouldn't it be someone like you, or who's financially savvy and advises on these issues?
I'm part of other teams.
Okay.
Follow what you
Who are the players on that team?
Well, no. When you
And
think
what
about it,
positions
let's think of the issues that we're facing. An issue that I get probably 2 or 3 phone calls about every week, right, is individuals that are facing the unfortunate costs of long-term care, right, and decisions that have to be made around it. Whether or not the most recent one that I received is, do they really understand that this is money that my father saved his entire life to accumulate, and they want to take $15,000 a month, right, for him to be able to live in the nursing home? How come the government can't step in? Well, that's the old story of everybody thinks you can easily qualify for Medicaid. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I'm part of a team for Medicaid. I do Medicaid planning. I'm a certified Medicaid planner. I just participated in a survey that they're going to redo the test that I had to take in order to get the certification.
Mm-hmm.
So I need help. There are times I am not an attorney. There are times that the recommended courses of action will require legal documents. And when the requirement is a legal document, you need an attorney. You can do it yourself, right? Unfortunately, in this day and age, you can be in a criminal court and defend yourself. At the same time, I was walking through Staples. There's an entire wall of legal documents that you can pick, that you could pick from. Mm-hmm. But then you assume some of the risk. If you're paying a professional, hopefully that professional has the experience and will guide you and do the right thing. And truth be told, they have they have a fiduciary responsibility as well as, potential liability if they didn't do the right thing. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about making sure that you first, whatever the problem is, right, you first start with a person that's going to be your quarterback. It could be a financial services person. It could be a social worker. Everybody should be working in your best interest. As a financial service advisor, right now, the government has basically enacted legislation called the best interest provisions. Basically, it says that you always have to do, if you are going to provide financial services, do what's in the best interest of the client. Now, I will say, right? That if you go to a nursing home, there are multiple individuals that you deal with. If you go to an assisted living facility, if you talk to, I want my father to go live in the Marriott, one of the Marriott homes or whatever it may be. There are a couple of different people that you end up talking to, right? One person there, right, is going to be basically a salesperson, the admissions person. He's going to show you around, tell you everything that's going on. From there, they they will then start talking about financials, and have your financial, how are you going to pay? This is our cost. Here's our sheet. Here's how much it costs for these services, and how are you going to pay for this? Well, private pay is it's the resources that are available, or the whoever is going to pay these bills. The second part of that, the second person, as I said, will likely be some sort of financial manager or case manager that will confirm the ability for, that the payments will be received. Because in most cases, they are businesses. They are for-profit businesses. And then depending upon the facility is, do they accept Medicaid? And if they do,
of course,
right, you're going to start to talk to a social worker who's going to subsequently, take the information that was given to you by the financial service person and say either you're eligible or not eligible. And throughout this, there's, they're developing a plan of care, but they need to get paid. Now, an alternative to that process could be working with a planner like myself, who's familiar, and we could start the process before you even start looking at facilities, because unfortunately, right, if you have more income or too many resources, we have to develop a plan to either diversify or reallocate the income and potentially reduce the resources. So not everybody qualifies for Medicaid. Are there strategies that we can implement that can help accelerate the process? The answer is yes. But does everybody qualify? The answer is no. So you need a planner that is familiar with the process, has your best interest. And when I say your best interest, one of the things I always emphatically say, especially if it's a physical need for a parent to be in a safer environment, we want them to participate. It may be their money that's going to be used to pay for it, but we need them to participate in the meetings and understand what's going on. Because the reason they sometimes are staying home, they want to leave the money to their kids. And the kids may want it or may not want it. But I have many, many different circumstances that come across my desk where we can get assistance through some sort of public program, whether it be a Medicaid or other veterans benefits. There's a couple of other programs out there. A professional will understand what's available to you.
Joseph, earlier on you mentioned having a captain. Now we're starting to bite into and look at solving the individual issues, but shouldn't someone be in the role of sorting that out? For example, you'll need a lawyer for this. Perhaps you need to set up a trust. The advisor doesn't do that. You need to set up a trust. Or we need to look at moving assets because of perhaps the need to go on Medicaid. Who quarterbacks that?
Well, you start with the person that has the experience, a quarterback. Now, I'm going to even go one step further. The quarterback, while I always recommend it be a professional of some sort, a professional planner, potentially an attorney, however you want, but somebody that's familiar with what will be required to accomplish the goal, right? It can sometimes just be a family member who's taking on that responsibility, and then they will go out and find a planner, be it a financial planner or an attorney, or working with a social worker or someone of that nature, and they'll be the quarterback, and they'll reach out to other professionals, but they're going to need resources. They're going to need people that can say, all right, have you looked at this? Have we considered this? Right? The when you're talking about senior care, and as I said, senior care talks about those end stages of life. They're not the beginning. You want to have a plan. You want to have a goal. You want to figure out what you're doing. But we've sort of like swung and focused on what I would say the last stages of life.
Well, we did talk a bit about when people should begin doing this. You mentioned school debt and perhaps repackaging it or
Yeah, because
managing
you
it a
see,
different way.
there's so many stages and so many issues that we face during life that you have to have a strategy to accomplish it. And it's sad, but many of the issues always revolve around financials,
Yes, they do.
right? It seems like everybody says money can't make you happy, but it certainly doesn't always make you sad. But the people that don't have money, right, don't have the resources to maybe provide a life that they want to live, right, have to have it more difficult. So what we try to do throughout all the stages of life is overlay both, and this is at Aging Issues Management, we try to overlay both financial and life strategies. I've been a lot of individuals have been commenting on me, right, to me personally right now, that I'm in the process of trying to get healthier, is the best way to put it.
Downsizing as well, if I may, in a certain way.
It is a downsizing.
How many pounds so far, boss?
Oh no, a good amount. When it stays off and it's done, and I'm going to say this,
Because you look good. You look like you've been making
it's
progress.
a process, and I have to tell you, my process to losing weight started with a comment from a doctor in October, and then subsequently doing some research, and actually truly beginning the process on January 1. So you could call me a resolutioner, all right? But the goal is, for me personally, to reduce my medications and maybe, reverse some conditions that I have. And the first part of that process is to lose some weight. Now, I've done it over a course of, lost certain amounts over a course of a year or two, but now it's really, the light bulb went off from this comment that the doctor had made to me.
Which was?
No. It's technically,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
technical term. I'm not going to die or anything of that nature. Although they said if you don't make some changes, you will die. I think we've all heard that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we have.
We have all heard that one. You got to make some changes in your life, right? And we don't sit down. And I have to say, I made choices. I chose the Italian cheesecake versus not having the Italian cheesecake.
Yes, you
I
did.
chose to add cream to my coffee versus drinking it black. Right? We make choices, and we can live with our choices. And I lived very comfortably for 40. I will say.
However many years it was. It
was a lot of
out
years.
your age.
It was a lot of years, but on that side. But now you try to make decisions and you try to make the correct choices to accomplish a goal. So I set a goal. Really, that was it. And actually, one of the intermittent goals, which was going to be a 30-day goal, is pretty much should be accomplished by the end of the month. I will say that. That's a great thing, right? I should reward myself with a piece of Italian cheesecake.
No, you're not going to reward yourself. And we should remind people, you're listening to Aging Issues Radio. It is a product and an association, of course, with Aging Issues Management. Your host, Joe Sorcelli, is the president of Aging Issues Management. A little later, we'll give out his contact information on Bob Marone. And this is Radio Westchester. Continue, Joseph.
Okay. I'm looking at time. Again, one of the things that it seems it's a live show, and since I have you as my co-host, I sometimes get go off on tangents.
Well, we're letting you do that, but I'm your if you will, virtual guinea pig, because I have lots of questions, but I'll wait until you open it up for questions.
And maybe we'll do that. But let's talk about the purpose for tonight's show. The first and foremost reason I wanted to come on the air tonight was to make sure that people realized that you need a team. You don't always need just an individual. And the person that has a network of advisors, an attorney, a funeral director, a caregiver, a facility, but basically, this is on one side. Now, on the senior side, on the earlier side, the same quarterback should have a loan officer, a person that's familiar with student loans, an individual real estate agent that can turn around and do it. So as you begin to realize, this is not just a single individual, but is a network. And what we are doing now at Aging Issues Management is we're going to create a Sound Shore Master Network group. And it's going to be everywhere from, I'll use the Throgs Neck area, it's Sound Shore, right? Up through Larchmont and Marinick, right on up the coast.
Right up through Rye and up the coast.
Right?
Head into Connecticut as
Heading
well.
into Connecticut. And everybody always says to me, well, my advisor doesn't have to be, right there. But the reason why I'm doing this is I'm reaching out to other professionals that understand the value of working in a networking group. Because we're going to meet, both virtually, because I don't want to run to, a coffee clutch and talk about things. I want productive time. And productive time allows you to sometimes meet virtually through a conference call or through a video conference if a person's comfortable with it. And video conferences are easy now because they're with a phone. You need a little tripod or anything else, and you can do a video conference on a phone. So I want people to participate, and I want people not only to bring, per se, case studies, but also to explain what's going on now. A conference call that I participated in earlier today, right, specifically dealing with Medicaid and Medicaid planning, indicated how the use of trusts are becoming less and less frequent.
Why is that?
The cost, both current and future,
Of the fees for managing the trust, et cetera.
And unfortunately, right, most of the time that when we're doing Medicaid planning, it's more of in a crisis mode. So we don't have 5 years for the look back.
No, that's very true. And
we don't have
think
things. So
Joe,
there are other strategies.
I wanted to mention something as I sit here as your virtual subject. One of the things that occurs to me is what you are prescribing is very much like
recommending.
When I say prescribe, here's my point. You envision, if you will, a setup the way we today see our doctors. You have a general practitioner. He or she may specialize in one element of what you do, but he will also recommend you to specialists, a specialist in the law, a specialist in Medicaid planning, a specialist in trusts and estates, if indeed that's where you're going to go, another specialist in real estate, and so forth, perhaps a tax accountant. Is that a fair analogy?
That's exactly what we're talking about. No paid promotion or anything else. But one of the things that I did, again, practicing what I preach, is I, for approximately 5, maybe probably even longer, closer to 10 years, used a series of different doctors to address the issues that I had. Mm-hmm. Right? None of them, again, life-threatening or anything else, but, you go see an endocrinologist, you go see a cardiologist, you go see this. Once you turn 60, doctors become part of your life.
Way too much a part of your life.
Right? And mostly for, preventative medicine. So what I chose to do is start to participate with one group so that all the records could be shared. Think about that, right? When you have an attorney that is not dealing with your financial advisor.
That's very true.
Right? They don't always know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you run into what I just ran into, is the financial advisor was doing some planning, and he was using what they call transfer on death accounts. Great way of doing, simple. It's basically, it's sort of like if you have a bank account, you can transfer it upon your death with a simple one-page form in most of the case to somebody else. So it avoids probate, avoids everything else. Other people we used to, and I'm not going to say a lot of individuals used to add like their children onto the accounts, right? So that they were, joint accounts, but the kids had access to that money, and that always wasn't good. But a transfer on death basically just says, if I die, transfer it to my, child or whoever it may be.
Okay.
Okay. So they had a whole series of these transfer on death accounts, and they went to an estate attorney, talked to them, and had some very specific estate, requirements. A child had passed away. A child had passed away, and there was a grandchild from that child, that they wanted them to inherit a certain amount of money.
Right.
And then the existing child and, the other child and a certain amount of money. And then the rest of the money to be split equally amongst the rest of the grandchildren. The only issue is all of these TOD accounts
Go ahead.
aren't covered by the will.
But shouldn't your advisor know that? Shouldn't the lawyer or the financial advisor you employed know that?
Well, the financial advisor knew it. The attorney knew it. But they didn't work together.
Okay, how do we ensure that, Joseph?
How do
if
you
someone calls up, how do you ensure that for them?
Well, one of the first ways that we do at Aging Issues Management is in our intake form. When I say an intake form, basically our original summary of everything else, is we find out who you're dealing with. Because you know something? You may have had a financial relationship with a person for 30 years, right? And you don't want to move it. So we don't need to control your assets. We just need to know who that person is. You have to give them permission to give us information. And then with that information, we can then start to put together recommendations. And it's the same with an attorney. Right? The issue that we need to do is get these members of the team to coordinate. And once again, even though Aging Issues Management and Joe Soroselli may develop a network of advisors, and I have people that I currently work with, right? But when I'm talking Sound Shore, I would like to create something that is available to the people on the Sound Shore, easy to commute, no long distance, no anything else. So everybody works together and understands who they're working with. But
would you set up literally a DBA? In other words, we have Aging Issues Management before us and Aging Issues Radio. Would you would you think of setting up a DBA as the Sound Shore Aging Issues Network?
Well, the network will network will be a network. It's going to be a referral network. It's not going to be. It is not.
It's not going to be a formality.
It's not going to be a business, because then you can run into conflicts of interest. Because an attorney has certain responsibilities, a financial advisor has certain responsibilities, a social worker has certain responsibilities. You have to have some independence, right? But at the same time, with the permission of a client, everybody can work together. Because hopefully everybody's working towards the same goal with the client's best interest at heart. So now, by creating this network or this advisory group, right, we can avoid that two people were working in two different goals. The financial advisor was making decisions that, made the client's life easy, and they understood the transfer on death, and didn't really understand the layers of the estate plan that the attorney was doing. Now, this wasn't catastrophic, but it just certain things had to be undone, right? And the subsequent consequences had to be. Now, fortunately, it wasn't a $10 million estate. It was nowhere near that or anything else. So there really were going to be no estate taxes. And the cost of probate may be, God forbid, you have to probate a will and you have to go through everything else. Maybe the cost of probate was going to be $5,000 to $10,000. So in the overall scheme of things, it wasn't too high, right? That too much of the value. But sometimes, I sit back and explain to somebody, well, if you have to probate your will, you can do it yourself, but usually people have an attorney do it, right, of some sort, and they're going to charge a certain fee, and it can, be anywhere from a low of $2,000 to a high because there's time that's involved. But they just say, I don't want to pay that. Well, then you go to the financial advisor and you say, I can avoid all that. I can turn around and do this, this, and this, right? I can make TOD accounts. I can do different things. Well, guess what? It conflicts with what your ultimate goals were that you established in your will. Because the asset transfers by ownership or by contract, not through a testamentary through your will.
Okay.
So there's an inherent conflict there, right? I frequently work with clients to turn around and avoid probate, but the goals are different.
What is the most frequent visit you get? What is the issue? What are they looking to do? I realize it's diverse, but do you have one thing
you know
more
how
than
we
another?
I'm going to say this. We talk about stages in life.
Mm-hmm.
I get the first stage in life, which I was doing today. We are establishing 529s for
college,
for a new baby.
Right.
Okay. So that's that side. I had to do some counseling to the person also, and it was at the referral of a parent to say, hey, can you meet and explain what's going on? All right. So there was a combination of both. Get out of debt, right? Save some money, establish the 529s, establish your goals. All right. The second stage, was in that same scenario. It was a little bit beyond that because there was some student loans that we had to address. But, now we have to have some insurance. What ifs? I often just say, what if? What if I could become disabled? What if if I die? What if I need long-term care? These are the what ifs at the various stages. Mm-hmm. So what I do, and having been doing this for 30 plus years, right, I get referrals from parents to kids, and then I get referrals from parents to parents, right? I got one person right now that we had to sit down, right, that is over 103, turning 104 next month.
What do they want services for?
They need to finally, at this stage, go into a nursing home.
Wow. At 103?
At 103, had been independent.
I'll sign up for that.
Right? I would definitely sign up for it. But at the same point, it's there. And we're going to see more and more of this, by the way.
Yeah, because people are living longer and longer. Well, those that are living longer, what seems to be interesting is they say that the average age of people isn't going up, but a subsection of the population is. I'm
a finance.
I know, that's why I put that out you. And what's the story?
What's the story? Proper medical care extends life.
A long way.
It's as easy as that, right? Hips, knees, shoulders, hearts, medications, wherever it is, it does extend. So while I am not, and I will say this, and this may be, since this is on pretty much a private broadcast, a podcast, I am not an advocate of national health care. Right?
Okay.
Right? I am an advocate of health care for all.
They are different things.
Two dramatic
access to the health care matters.
Exactly. New York, fortunately, has, and I will always say this even prior to Obamacare, New York had a templated program that was always available. Right? The issue that really becomes, and it comes back to choices, right? And this is all it sometimes we talk about, right? You can choose to pay for your health insurance, or you can choose to buy a new car. What's more important to you?
Of course.
Because that's pretty much the cost. All right. We're sitting at, a little bit longer than I wanted to. We're going on about 50 minutes because I do have a clock right through this light that I'm looking at. Right. Come on. That's the cough. Where's the cough button? No.
The cough button works for me. I already turned off my mic. Not yours, Weisenheimer.
All right.
He's concerned about my health, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
I am. And he is a very healthy X-year-old. Right?
I like that. The big one's coming up. About 8 weeks.
Right. But even for me, big one's coming up for me.
That's right.
Right? It's the first thing. I can actually apply for I can apply for Social Security.
Good for you.
Right? So we have to see. But again, choices are the key. So if you want to start to talk about the issues that you are facing and subsequently develop goals to solve those issues and are willing to work with multiple people that will create a team that will provide ideas and recommendations that are in your best interest, ranging from financial to legal to possibly medical, I need you to contact me at 914-468-0186 or Joe at agingissuesinfo.com, and I'll be very happy to help you start in the right direction.
I kind of like that. I'll be helpy. That's a good thing.
I'll be helpy.
He'll be helpy. Give the phone number out. Have any other
Again,
information to give?
914-468-0186. Looking forward to speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. You've been listening to Aging Issues Radio. They are a product and a component of Aging Issues Management. Your host today has been Joe Soroselli. I kind of like the idea of you as a quarterback. I'm Bob Marone for Radio Westchester. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.